Hello, my friends. I'm your host, Mortimer James, and I would like to welcome you to the world of the creepy and the caffeinated, of conspiracies and coffee. Welcome to Tales from the Dark Roast. A few weeks ago, my guest was a good friend and fellow science geek, Jacob Cruzy, who discussed the Marfa Lights and Fata Morgana. During our talk, he suggested I read a book by author Annie Jacobson titled Area 51, An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Base. Just the brief description of some of the stories within that book really piqued my interest. So I pulled up my phone and downloaded the audiobook version of it from my library as soon as the episode ended. It did not disappoint. This is a nonfiction history of Area 51 from its humble beginnings as a test site for America's first biplanes through nearly 5 decades of nuclear bomb testing and, of course, the infamous Roswell crash of 1947. Some of the information and facts presented were pulled from declassified documents, some from first-hand accounts, and still more from interviews conducted with longtime employees. It is a highly enjoyable and, for me at least, a life-altering book. It's a must-read for anyone to get a different take on the UFO craze of the 40s and 50s. Now that I've read the book and had some time to think on it and form my own opinions on it, I've asked Jacob to come back on the show so that we can thoroughly nerd out on some of the most famous military base stories, yet a military base that is still not acknowledged by the U.S. government, Area 51. Welcome back to the Dark Roast, man. How's it been going since the last episode?
Been busy, man. Been really busy, but been good. Yeah, Black Friday just happened. I work in retail, so yeah, it's been nuts.
Dude, I completely forgot about that. I know your job and everything. So
yeah, logistics for Amazon.
Yeah. Well, I stayed at home for Black Friday. I didn't go
Thank
anywhere.
You. Yeah. Well, but if you were sitting at home swiping right on stuff on the app, shame on you. But
I was not.
Fine. I understand.
We're gonna try to shop local as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
You know, we do have some stuff we're getting from Amazon just because I've got some gift cards that are coming my way. But
fair, totally fair.
So we're both sitting here drinking. I know last time you were drinking some HEB, right?
I'm still on my HEB Taste of Texas kick because I just love the different like HEB store brand coffees. And now that I've had enough of them, I'm beginning to realize that syrup I'm tasting. They put syrup on beans. The illusions kind of shattered, as it were, coffee. But I'm enjoying the taste of Austin right now, which is just your normal Arabica dark roast, but it's got lovely hints of southern pecan and cinnamon, which is just it hits my Texan heart in just the right way. So
cinnamon is hands down one of my favorite things to add to coffee.
Absolutely.
I will, like, when I do a French press, I'll take and just little couple dashes in the grinds before I add the water, let them steep and then pour it. And man,
yeah, that's good. Living right, sir. That sounds tasty.
It really is. And man, like, especially if you have a coffee that may not be like the best quality coffee, but it's still decent, add a little cinnamon, just goes a long way towards making that flavor so much better. So
absolutely.
And I'm hoping to get some Bones Coffee soon. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
They are they do like different flavored coffees, but a lot of them are themed. So they had like a s'mores one recently. And I want to look into getting a bag of that. And I think you can go on their website and get like a 3 or 5 bag sampler. And they're just small bags, probably a pot each. But
yeah, there's a brand here in Austin that has some of the best beans I've ever had, hands down. It's a brand called Wild Gift Coffee, and one of their brands in particular is called Rude Boy, which they typically make that coffee for all the coffee shops in Austin to be used in their espresso machines. So it's definitely like a heavier coffee, and it's a Ethiopian coffee. So it's actually got like little bits of like hints of blueberry in it, which is just really good. Like it keeps you up though.
Nice. Well, that's that's why I drink it. So I might have to see about getting some of that shipped to me, because you said Rude Boy and I instantly thought like ska.
Exactly. And fair warning, it is pretty pricey at like $20 a bag, but hey, it's You're actually paying for the actual fair trade. The guys that run that shop here in Austin are amazing. Their roaster at Wild Gift used to be the roaster for another coffee brand here in Austin called Cuvée Coffee. Like when he left Cuvée, their star began to fall, and then Wild Gift began to just rocket because he's just a king of coffee. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but folks, if you want some good coffee from Texas, try Wild Gift. They do import from outside of the country, so you're paying basically $20 for a bag of Mexican coffee or Ethiopian coffee, but it's good stuff.
And honestly, for good crafted coffee, 20 is not bad. It really isn't. I've seen some really ridiculous prices for coffee. So, but I feel like we're starting to divert the conversation from Area 51 into coffee.
Oh man. Yeah,
and
no, God.
I know there's a link because Area 51 started as a military base to work on the first American spy planes, the U-2.
Yep.
And pilots live on black coffee.
Uh-huh.
So there's our tie-in. Coffee, Area 51. It's just a dark roast conspiracy, y'all.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So, man, this book absolutely blew my mind because I just always thought of Area 51 as like the UFO military base. And I knew they were doing testing, but I didn't realize like my favorite plane, the SR-71 Blackbird, was directly spawned from the flights that happened on a previous one, the Ox Cart. So, man.
Oh, man. Yeah, the United States is interesting. I love my country. I do. We've also done some incredibly unethical things in the name of protecting this country, in particular the Cold War. Our favorite Christians in action, the CIA, have done some absolutely, thank you, you're welcome for that one, folks. The things done in our name by these people, we're going to have to do an accounting at some point in the future. It's going to happen, but they've also kept us safe. They've also done the incredibly necessary things, I guess. But flying spy planes over a sovereign country's borders, over a sovereign country, doing overhead espionage, as we call it. We're the first to do that, like in peacetime, as it were. Like, we weren't at war with Russia. We were at Cold War with Russia, which meant anything goes. That was the mentality at the time. It's like, well,
but they were technically our allies.
Yeah, but they had the bomb, and their economy actually was like doing pretty okay in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, when you have a command economy, you can do some crazy shit. But no, man, so the Soviets were, it was really, we'd let the genie out of the bottle with nuclear testing and actually dropping nukes on Japan, which when we look at that little bit of history, like it wasn't nuking Nagasaki, Hiroshima to break Japanese spirit, like how we were mythologized about the use of these weapons. Like, why did we do this? We were fucking scared of Stalin, point blank, period. The Soviet army was in northern Japan at that point, World War II, or was like in the Kamchatka Peninsula, pushing south into Hokkaido. They hadn't quite made it into like Japan as we exists now as a contiguous, country. And we were just like, no, hell no, nuke them, just nuke them. Truman said, do it, and we did it, and that spawned all of these amazing conspiracies, amazing like literal conspiracies within our own country to create a shadow government that creates spin-off technologies that we're currently using to communicate with each other. Like the internet is the spin-off of ARPA, DARPA.
Yeah.
All of this stuff, it just intermeshes. And a lot of this stuff got done at Area 51. Like a lot of the miniaturization of technology, a lot of the composite materials research that we take for granted in all the stuff that we have now, stealth as a concept, like they figured it out at Area 51.
Titanium. No
Yeah.
one was using titanium for anything. And then when they started building the spy planes,
Yep.
titanium. Now you have titanium camping gear.
Yes.
I have a mug. I have literally a titanium camping mug that weighs next to nothing. And I can honestly say that you can trace that all the way back to Area 51 because no one was using titanium properly.
I love a little tidbit. I don't remember if it was specifically in the book by Jacobson or was in some other apocryphal stuff I was reading about Oxcart and the SR-71, but what's hilarious about its manufacture was that nearly all of the titanium that we used to make it was Russian. It was Soviet titanium that the CIA had created like 6 different proxy shell corporations to get a hold of the rutile soil from the Soviet Union, get them to then refine that shit, turn it into titanium bars, and then ship it via boat to the United States because it was going to be used for something else from some other Russian sounding company that was run by Russian Americans, but straight up CIA front company doing espionage, building spy planes.
What the CIA does, basically.
Yeah, there's actually around the same time period. This is a little bit disconnected from Area 51, but it's just one of my favorite. Like the CIA are dicks, and they have their little fingers in all sorts of pies. So there was a Soviet satellite that had been launched into orbit. It was like Sputnik, or shortly after Sputnik. It was like, oh, I can't remember the name of the satellite off the top of my head, but what I do remember is that they had sent this satellite on a museum tour in Europe and were showing it off. Like, this is your Soviet technology, Soviet this, that, and a lot of European countries were kind of teetering towards one way or the other, and that scared the crap out of the CIA. So they were just like, we need pictures. I want to see what's in there. Get me pictures of Spider-Man. They sent somebody, a team of dudes, to follow around this essentially like museum tour group of like Soviet intelligence officers and Soviet security guards that were following around this satellite that was boxed up, sealed with like what do they call those? Stickers, just like a seal sticker,
right?
That had all the crazy Cyrillic and shit. Like, do not break or break your finger, comrade. So they had gotten a hold of printers, like color printers in the area, gotten a hold of like photography labs in the area, because they were going to have to run the photographs they took of all of this Soviet stuff, because they had broken into where they were storing it overnight one time, cracked open the case, took a bunch of pictures of the satellite, dismantled parts of it, took pictures of what the insides looked like, re-engineered it back together, and then resealed it with copies of the stamps that they used to seal the stickers that they were sealing the boxes with. CIA just was able to go get that locally from people. They have sources and methods. It's kind of like another shot in the arm for American aerospace. Like, cool, now we can miniaturize our own satellites, because we saw what the Russian, German scientists had built, because everybody pilfered, the German rocket scientists at the end of World War II.
And that sounds like it sounds like the synopsis of like a really bad ripoff of like Ocean's 11.
Yes.
Danny and the boys have to break in and steal satellite information, but first they've got to find a way to seal the crate back up. Like,
right. Like it's like it's almost like it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I can just imagine, the title screen, the CIA breaks some shit. Yeah. Ah, man.
And this all of it links back to Area 51 because it was a hotbed of development, and it was all led by the CIA. That's the thing I also didn't know. I always thought it was a military base, but it didn't start that way.
Absolutely not. No,
it started as a black site for the CIA to conduct stealth and was it high altitude reconnaissance, basically the U-2 spy planes.
They were doing a lot of also really fucking brutal medical testing out there that was also not really talked about in that book, but another one. Actually, no, it's another Jacobson book, but it ties back into Area 51. Again, the paperclip scientists,
Yeah.
a lot of them were doctors, like doctors that had done incredibly dark shit. Like,
Well, and real quick for anyone that doesn't know, Operation
yeah.
Paperclip or the Paperclip doctors were the German scientists that America went in and basically co-opted at the end of World War II. These were Nazi scientists who were working on the V2 rockets, unfortunately, human medical experiments,
Yeah.
biological stuff. We basically said, hey, we will pardon you, give you a new life. You come work for us instead of the Russians. So that's Operation Paperclip.
Yeah. So a lot of these guys that the CIA were like, yeah, it's good enough. It'll work for us. Like, I can't remember the name of, there was this one specific German medical doctor, like, and I mean, he was like Hitler's flight surgeon. Like, he was in charge of the Wehrmacht like medical program, and I forget the name of the Luftwaffe. So the Luftwaffe aerospace medicine, like he pushed it forward the most, like by killing a lot of slaves, or essentially people that were taken from concentration camps and had medical experiments done on them by this guy. Like, how do we know why pilots need a G suit? Why do we know pilots need, certain supplemental oxygen? These guys figured all of that out by doing incredibly brutal experiments on people and also on our own people. Yeah. Like, there were American pilots, decorated test pilots, that were inducted into this program and then essentially tortured for science. Like, experiments where, we did a lot of the similar stuff to the astronauts in the Mercury program. Again, paperclip scientists were involved in that program to get us into space. I mean, Werner von Braun was in charge of the entire program, and he was the guy that created the V2 rocket, folks.
Yeah, that's the only reason we're in space is Nazis.
Yeah, like American rocketry up until that point, like my personal hero is the big American rocket hero, Jack Parsons, who NASA's JPL Labs is actually named after Jack Parsons. It's just the Jack Parsons Laboratories. Now it's called the Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Right, that's what I've always heard.
Because Jack Parsons is kind of a legend in history, because like, not only did the guy create his own solid rocket fuel, like when he was in high school, like he basically created like a rocket club, blew a lot of shit up, was told, okay, look, we're really proud of you for being able to make stuff go into the air, but can you go blow shit up over there in Pasadena, which is essentially where JPL was created. Tangent. Jack Parsons was also part of the Ordo Thelema. He was into chaos magic, and he was roommates with one what's his name? The guy that wrote Scientology, Hubbard.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. So Hubbard, is it R.L. Hubbard? L.R. Hubbard?
On L. Hubbard.
Yeah. So Hubbard was essentially Jack Parsons' ecumenicus in the Church of like the Ordo Thelema. So like, whenever Jack Parsons was doing chaos magic, which meant like drawing a bunch of like gobbledygook and sigils on a bunch of paper, L. Ron Hubbard was sitting right next to him, just listening to him jabber and then like writing down everything that he said with just like puppy dog eyes, just going, this is amazing. And he completely screwed Parsons over in the long run, like stole his woman, stole his money. Parsons ends up like dying, destitute, and also maybe assassinated by somebody because, again, rockets, Cold War. So so Jack Parsons can only get us so far in American rocketry. So we needed some stern, maybe some scars on the face kind of German dudes to be like, no, we can do the mathematics, we know the chemistry, we can get you into space. Just help my family. And what happened? Like most of the paperclip scientists, it's an interesting like pipeline. They were brought into the United States via Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, which is interesting because some of them ended up just settling out in El Paso, and you'll be driving around in El Paso and the streets are like very like, it's very Texan, how you'll see all the streets are like very like Hispanic Latino names, and then all of a sudden German.
Yeah.
Just the street names are straight up German. It's like Strasse this, and you're like, what the huh? So there was this infiltration of their science into our science. We were kind of anything goes, man, because it's the CIA that said, hey, sure, all right, we're going to need to build a plane that could fly higher than missiles can go, or faster than missiles can go.
Well, they wanted both, wanted faster and higher.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the U-2 came from. So the U-2 spy plane is, the fact that we're still flying the thing blows my mind, and the fact that the thing is a bicycle breaks my brain. If you've never watched the U-2 take off, it is one of the most convoluted, complicated, just choreographed dances with like just yoked out himbos wearing colored vests to make sure they're standing in the right spot, holding the plane's wings and just running with it.
Well, because it's
going.
The U-2 the one that the wings are basically big fuel tanks?
Yes.
And so on takeoff, they're actually leaking a little bit of fuel until they get to height and speed, and the pressure seals them.
Same thing happens with the SR-71, and the same thing happened with Oxcart. That was one of the big problems with Oxcart, was that it would just bleed whenever it was sitting on the runway. So you can't have it sitting on the runway. It needs to be in the air, which is why they were so aggressive also with just how many missions they had these guys flying. And how many of those missions were actually over the United States, which we're not supposed to do. CIA is not supposed to spy on us, but they, oops, history.
And what's crazy is, so this all links back into like Area 51 again. Mm-hmm. They were doing most of those flights on Area 51. They tested, designed everything on Area 51 property. And when they were flying, 99% of those flights that were spotted were mistaken for UFOs.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where we got part of the UFO craze of like the 40s and 50s, because people are seeing all these crazy things in the sky. And at the time, no one knew about U2. You know, there were like what, handful of people in the government and the CIA that knew about it. You had the guys making it, but they were all sequestered on Area 51 property and only went home on weekends. And basically were told, you talk, you're gone.
Yeah, persona non grata. You will be ruined by just the system as it exists. It's been interesting. Like, there have been people that have come forward and tried to like disclose about Area 51. Like Bob Lazar is the one that pops immediately to the front of my mind. Like, God bless Bob Lazar. The man's been put through hell. His reputation's been run through the ringer back and forth. I personally, I don't know. I sat with a lot of my feelings about, like, in this last year we had, you know, they're called UAP. I was like, no, it's UFOs. And they were just like, yeah, no, like, this was the year also that like we were supposed to find out who shot Kennedy. Like, that was literally this year. This year was supposed to be the year we found out who killed Kennedy. No. Hey, aliens are real, guys. Aliens are real. Yeah, check out all these videos. Look at all these videos. Look at all these videos. Yeah, woo, aliens are real. What's funny about like most of those videos, if you just use a little bit of like, just a little bit of like a skeptical eye, it's just like there's this one video where like it's this white orb and it looks like it's going 700 miles per hour along the water, and they're tracking it with a targeting computer. Wow, got it. It was a duck.
Yeah, it was a large seabird of some sort.
Yeah, it's a big bird, and that's cool.
What is it called? Parallax.
Yeah. So they were the fact that like they were excited, and like I understand boy brain, like I understand military boy brains too, just because like, bruh, I'm flying a multi-million-dollar airplane, and I just used a multi-million-dollar like high-end radar targeting computer to track a bird. I saw that
from range.
Range,
From
dude.
range.
Wow, got it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
these boys love that shit. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's not an alien. It was just like, dude, look what I did with the computer. I made the
Yeah.
computer target a bird that's like 20 feet off the ground, and I'm going like fast as shit.
Yeah. And
So,
that's the
yeah.
part of the video you don't hear is all of that
Right.
stuff beforehand, where this guy's
Context.
like, son of a, I'm going to track this. Hold on, man. I got this. Bobby, what are you doing? Stand by, man. Stand by. I got to. Whoa, I got it.
Whoa!
Yeah, look at that sucker.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, we've worked in media, so we understand that everything you hear, folks, is edited.
oh, yes.
So maybe not this podcast so much. I think we like to keep it a little bit like, just
Yeah.
on the rails, not a lot of cuts.
I occasionally have to edit out my dogs wanting to go outside. That's about it. Or I don't know, you've probably heard them snoring in the background. So.
No. But yeah. So Area 51, Roswell, Project Mogul. This is an interesting bit of history that nobody really talks about, or actually it's like it's just now becoming declassified, so we're able to actually talk about the balloons that the CIA or the NSA or whatever apparatus of the United States government at that point in the 40s, right after the end of World War II. And this is how we get to needing a U-2 spy plane, because we were using spy balloons at this point, and weather balloons were one of the more easy way to put something up way super high and just have it chill there for a bit and then observe weather phenomena. Whereas Mogul was, we were concerned that the Soviets were building their own bombs, nuclear bombs, and we wanted to know when and where they were testing those. So Project Mogul was a bunch of just reconnaissance balloons that were flown over the Soviet Union and also over the United States, but at super high altitudes, because what they were looking for was pressure waves being generated in the atmosphere by detonations of nuclear weapons. Like they also had, I think it was some kind of a weak kind of like photometer on the device that, like, if a bomb was detonated, it's going to release a lot of light into the atmosphere, and it was going to hit the photoreceptor and be like, detected it. Which is funny because like that actual same kind of lineage of surveillance technology actually eventually led to the discovery of gamma rays in space. Like a whole entire branch of astronomy was opened up by surveillance technology, which is crazy. Like we had sent up a bunch of satellites in the 60s to look around the backside of the Earth, look down at the Soviet Union, and just look for big bursts of neutrons. Like these were essentially like neutron detectors that were in orbit, and they started getting these huge explosions happening. They were just like, whoa, where did that come from? Like the moon just exploded because it was the direction that the
coming in from outer space and then
outer space
backing off,
just like
reflecting off the moon.
Yeah, so it was just like, oh shit, what is that? And gamma ray hit the back of the satellite really hard with a really excited photon. So one of those balloons crashes over Roswell, maybe. Or maybe it was a Soviet spy plane that may have been actually a German spy plane that had really horribly medically modified child pilots, which is one other conspiracy theory about what happened over Roswell, that it may have been one of the Houghton brothers or Horton brothers.
I think it was Houghton.
Yeah, the Houghton.
She spends almost like an entire chapter in the book talking about these guys.
Yeah, the Houghton brothers were fascinating. They built basically like the first flying wings. There was
yeah, and basically these were two German brothers that basically got co-opted into the Nazis. And like he said, they built wing aircraft and what basically became the very stereotypical saucer look of what we considered modern UFOs at this point. And supposedly what she says in the book is one of those planes was sent by Russia because we were in the middle of the UFO craze. And it was like a social experiment to see how we would react. But unfortunately, as it was crossing over Nevada, it got struck in that lightning storm and crashed. Or whether it was a Project Mogul balloon that also got stuck struck by lightning and crashed. And the reason I'm more inclined to believe one of those theories over it being a UFO that crashed at Roswell is basically because of something we talked about just a minute ago with gamma radiation. You're going to tell me that you can traverse the stars at will. You can travel light years and a freaking lightning strike is going to take you out. I mean, are you Doc Brown? Did you just like randomly forget, lightning, it hurts.
Yeah.
Electricity.
Yeah.
There's no way I believe that a singular lightning strike, even multiple lightning strikes, took out a craft capable of interstellar travel.
No,
it does not compute with all the radiation that's in space.
Yeah.
You're telling me that just a lot of electricity took this thing out? No.
Nope.
So it's either a mogul balloon or one of those brothers crafts sent into the United States to sow discord and distrust with the people and the government.
Yeah, man. God, there is so many weird things that the sky can do, like things that you can see in the sky, like types of UFOs and the types of things that were being flown out of Area 51, like in the late 40s, early 50s. I think it was more the early to mid 50s when the facility really began to get up and running. Towards the later 50s is when people started to see basically like there were basically these like blazing crosses is what they were called, or like it was like a flying cross. It was just this super bright cross shape that would show up in the air every once in a while whenever the U-2 planes were taking off and flying west out over the Pacific into the setting sun, and everybody could see it because the U-2 at that point was stainless steel. It was just shiny. And a lot of people on the ground that worked for the agency were just like, guys, what the fuck? We kind of saw that. We need to fix that. Don't worry, we've got the PR team already saying, oh, it was UFO. I mean, we had Project Blue Book happening at the same time, which if folks don't know about Project Blue Book, that's another interesting and rather damning and telling thing that our government did to us, because ladies and gentlemen, your government doesn't trust you. They would much rather, it's kind of like the joke that like, boys would rather do a podcast than go to therapy. Well, it's like the United States government would rather gaslight you into thinking that we were being invaded by aliens than actually admit that we were spying on the Russians.
Yeah. And so this is another thing in the book that one of my takeaways from it was that the CIA was actually doing its job too well during Project Blue Book, because with the U-2 spy plane, a handful of people knew about it. It was above top secret. It was literally a need to know project. If you didn't need to know, you weren't in on it. So even the people that were assigned Project Blue Book didn't know about the U-2. So they're trying to justify all these sightings that are coming in of the U-2, and they're telling their people, oh, it's we don't know what this stuff is. But then their superiors who are in the need to know about this U-2 are saying, oh no, that's not a UFO. That's not aliens.
That's us.
Yeah. Well, they're not saying it's us, but they're just saying it's not this.
They never explicitly say anything. Like, I love that they can neither what do they call it? They call it the Glomar defense, or the Glomar defense. There was another CIA project where we were sending out a boat to go essentially recover a wrecked Russian sub, and the CIA could neither confirm nor deny that that's what they were doing, and that has become like just anything that the CIA does, they can neither confirm nor deny, and they refer to that as the Glomar defense. The Glomar defense.
And you see it in movies and books all the time.
Yep.
They can neither confirm nor deny our presence in this country.
Yeah, Glomar was the cover company for the operation. Like, the CIA loves to do like the spin up an entire corporation, make some branding, make some merchandise, make some stuff to make it really, feel authentic and American. We're really
It's
doing the thing.
legit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's legit. No, it's an assassin bug wearing like the husk of a company, and then it's the CIA on the inside. It's
Yeah.
just I'm here to kill you. Yeah,
But
love it.
With the CIA doing such a good job, like it literally created distrust between the government and the people, because the people are saying, we're seeing this shit, it's legit, and the government's going, no, you're good, you're not seeing what you think you're seeing. And so the CIA literally has all these reports. They've given it to the Air Force, because the Air Force didn't actually want to be involved with the UFO research. They tried to shirk that responsibility as quick as it was given to them. And unfortunately, they got it, and it was Project Blue Book, and they're being told, nope, it's not UFOs, but it's not us. And so everyone's saying, you guys aren't doing your job, you're not actually investigating it, when really they knew exactly what it was, but because you're not in the need to know, you're not being told that your UFO you saw Saturday night, stargazing, was actually just a U2 doing a run. So I also love that the scientists, when they built the U2, and it was the stainless steel, no one thought that flying that high, and no one even, because it was so radically new, that, as like you said, it's flying west, the sun is setting, it's actually above, flying so high that it's above where it's dark. So thousands of feet below it, it's starting to get nighttime, it's twilight, but where it's flying, it's bright as day. And that's where you're, like you said, you're getting the burning, or the flying crosses, or whatever they were. So
yeah, it's just like, it's not really that stealthy, guys.
Yeah.
Which that kicked off a whole entire other set of problems, because painting the damn thing made it too heavy.
Yeah, and
so they had to create special paint for them, and then the whole entire technology ended up being used in Oxcart, which is a whole entire other beast. Oxcart was the progenitor to SR-71. I think that craft was capable of Mach 3 plus flight, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I don't think, maybe, actually, yeah, I think there was one Oxcart crash, and that was over the United States, and it was a CIA pilot that crashed, and he got picked up by a farmer.
Yeah,
and
a bunch of good old boys in a pickup truck.
Yep,
because they had his canopy in the back of the truck with him.
Yep, and like, he basically had to have like a cover story that, oh yeah, no, I'm a good Air Force pilot. Yeah, no, that was a test pilot. Yeah, test plane. Yeah, don't ask questions. They were good boys, and they were just like, yeah, nope, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything.
Well, and what's funny is the cover story was also, it was a test flight with a live nuclear bomb on it.
And so those, don't look at it. Yeah,
don't look at it. It's not safe to go around it. And of course, this was back when people trusted the government, without question.
Yeah.
And so he said, nuclear bomb. They said, we're going to drop you off at the state troopers here in town, and we're leaving. We're getting out.
Yeah.
And that was their cover stories. If you crash on U.S. soil, you're an Air Force pilot, you've got a live nuke, stay away from it. And then of course they recovered everything, and they had to recover every bit of titanium.
Yep. Every nut, every bolt. Nothing happened, which is crazy, because he couldn't even tell his damn wife what had happened when he went home that same day after being debriefed by the CIA. Like, what a hell of a day.
Wow. And not only that, but afterwards, I think he was the one that was actually picked up and taken back, because they couldn't figure out how he had crashed. And because he had flown into a high cloud.
Yeah.
And then it basically caused, basically what it was, the sensor on the plane that senses water and moisture got fogged up and clogged up, and it caused his plane to basically invert and then spin. And so he was lucky to survive.
Yeah, the thing almost, it was I forget what they call that type of
dead spin.
Dead spin. Where it was a spin out, just
a flat dead spin or something,
horizontally spinning and falling to his doom.
Yep. So he was lucky to survive. And then, but the government, the people in charge of the program, specifically the base commander, which I think was it Leghorn at the time?
Yes, good old Colonel Leghorn.
Which Foghorn Leghorn. Oh. He didn't believe him as a pilot. He said, "You crashed this." He tried to shirk the blame onto that pilot,
Yep.
and they actually took him in, put him under sodium pentothal,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
truth serum, and
Hmm.
took him for like hours and interrogated him. His story never changed. And what's funny is the engineer who built the ox cart actually said, "I believe this pilot and I'm going to figure it out." He took it as a personal challenge.
Hmm.
And then that pilot was taken home, and this was on a Sunday, and these pilots worked Monday through Friday, basically. So he was brought home on a Sunday night after being loaded up with sodium pentothal to his wife, and she just assumed that he had been out drinking with the boys.
Yep.
And then he had to tell her, he's like, "Look, I can't tell you why, but I was given truth serum. I'm not drunk. I'm not out partying." And she believed him. But yeah, again, she had no idea what he was doing. Any of the people involved in Area 51, their cover stories were so deep that, I mean, just crazy.
Yeah. Like, we don't know all of the stories that have happened about these guys. In fact, I was just like double checking like any other accidents that happened with ox cart pilots, and I was just pulling up. Actually, there was another pilot named Walter Ray who was one of the earlier ox cart test pilots, and he apparently found the bug in the fuel system with it. Like the these jets just leak fuel. They need to be flown fast, really hard
And
to
really high.
allow, and really high to allow the skin of the plane to swell and close up every little gap in between each of the joints in the plane. It's a kludge, but it works fantastically once you get it up and moving. But they had run into an issue where he was flying into like headwinds. They hadn't quite figured out the pressure anomalies with fuel, and he just was radioing back like, my fuel's dropping fast, guys.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And
And
then
he didn't survive.
yeah, he was just like, I'm going to try and punch out and make it back to home plate, as the pilots referred to Area 51 as, and never heard from again. Just the plane smacked into a mountain, ran out of fuel, dropped altitude. Rest in pizza, buddy. Like
Yeah.
he was a test pilot who was working undercover for the CIA. He was just a test pilot for the corporation that he worked for, as far as he was concerned, until he was, read in, be like, no, you're gonna be a big damn hero, but we
Yeah.
won't hear about you till much later,
Yeah.
sir.
So back to the book real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it until she started talking about it. This book was actually released 11 years ago in 2011, 2012-ish.
Yep.
So she talks about stuff that's still classified.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious, and I want to maybe look into it and see if there's anything that's been declassified in those 11 years,
Mm-hmm.
um, to see what else has been brought up. Because I mean, guys, we're literally just touching on the surface of Area 51. I
Yeah, it's an
mean,
iceberg.
it's just it's huge, and like he's an iceberg. The more you look into it, the deeper and bigger it gets. I mean,
Oh, it's crazy. No UFOs, folks.
no,
Like, I want to believe. I wish I had the poster behind me right here
yeah,
on the camera, but I don't. But I'm going to imagine that I'm Fox Mulder and I want to believe.
yeah,
I really do, but it ain't there, folks. Area 51 they're doing cool shit out there, but it's not with like anti-grav tech. It's not with meta materials that can fold and unfold a trillion times. No, it's just mad scientists and doped up just G-men out in the desert doing crazy shit, throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. And
yeah,
that's how we got, stealth.
yeah. That's how we got stealth, because the CIA said, "Hey, we need this stuff," and they
Uh-huh.
basically was it MIT?
Yes.
MIT. They basically said, "Hey, make us a stealth paint," and they
Mm-hmm.
did. And they
Yeah.
didn't know what purpose it was for, but they're like, "Yeah, we'll accept that challenge. No one will do
Yeah.
it. We'll do it."
Yeah.
Made it.
Well, it's just like we need the ability to have radar emissions be soaked. Just, can this absorb radar? And it did. That's actually one of the key images that you'll see from Area 51 is like, for those that don't know about Area 51, Area 51 is in Nevada. in an area known as Groom Lake.
Hmm.
In this region of Nevada, it's a lot of just old alkali lake bottoms that are perfectly flat and great for testing aircraft on. Out there, there is this huge test stand that they have at Area 51, and it looks like a pyramid with a pipe sticking out of it. And the pipe they put planes on, and then they just blast the planes with different types of like radars, different actually stolen or
Soviet.
pilfered Soviet radar
Yeah.
systems. Like they will set the plane on that stand and then just zap it with the stolen electronic warfare kit that we got from the Soviets. And just like, oh, well, we saw the plane. That means that didn't work. We were using their tech against our tech just to mash the two together, reverse engineer something that would work. And all of that was directly a spinoff out of Operation Black Shield, which was one of the main programs that they were running out of Area 51, and also out of a couple other locations. They manufactured the aircraft out there, and then they would fly them out of a couple of different locations. In particular, Puerto Rico was an interesting hotbed of agency activity in the 50s and 60s, leading up to the whole entire coup in Nicaragua. There was the whole entire counter revolution in Cuba. What we never told anybody until just the last couple of years that it got declassified was that, yes, we actually had top secret spy assets based out of Puerto Rico, and also first strike nuclear capabilities that were pointed right at Cuba. Uh, we, yeah, so that one's now no longer top secret because
Well, you can
everything
blame the
about,
Russians for that because, oh
yeah,
yeah, we're going to use Russia. We're going to use Cuba as a launch platform ourselves. So
yeah. If you want to go down some serious agency history, there's a podcast called Blowback.
okay,
They just had their second season come out. Blowback first season was just all about the blowback is actually an agency term, a CIA term for stuff that happens because we did our thing. Iraq has a lot of blowback that happened, like ISIS is direct blowback from just the military intervention in that region. Season
back when
two,
Russia was trying to take over the area.
yes,
And then we're like, oh, well, we'll give you some weapons to fight the Russians, but shh, now those
yeah,
weapons being used against us.
which is just awesome. And then in like maybe 20, 30 years, whoever ends up fighting in Afghanistan again is going to end up having to fight, vintage, like early 21st century United States Army, M4 rifles that have been, modified in the Khyber Pass kind of shit. It's going to
Yeah.
be wild. But yeah, so CIA blowback, Cuba, great podcast. They do go into detail talking about how Oxcart was used over Cuba. The SR-71 was used over Cuba. Still to this day, they fly spy missions with that. We don't use the SR-71 nearly as much as we used to. We have satellites now for that, thankfully. But yeah, it's amazing that all of the brinksmanship that happened in Cuba did not end in nuclear conflagration, which is amazing. There was some very, very stoic and cool, and God bless them, Russian naval captains that just didn't pull triggers. They were just like, no, I don't, no. Because like if they had gone, then if they had pulled the trigger, then that's it. Like it was either we were going to end the world over Cuba or we got what we got.
Yeah.
Which
It's not it wasn't really a win-win situation, but it was a you survive, we survive.
And the longer into history we go, when we look back at crap like that, it's like, are we the baddies, guys? Like,
yeah, like we're kind of turning into the big bad. So oh my gosh. And again, guys, this all stems from stuff directly researched and designed at Area 51.
Yeah, like God, Area 50, I just love saying its name, Area 51.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So
part of
grandiose.
it's grandiose and also completely innocuous at the same time, because
Yeah.
there's also an Area 52.
52. Yeah.
There's Area 1, Area 2. I mean, there's majority of Nevada is just divvied up and owned by the military
Yeah.
and the United States government, because it's just a lot of empty, and we like to test stuff out there.
Yeah.
Like nukes. Oh my god.
Oh man.
So many tests out there.
Oh.
In particular, Area 51 had their own really awful nuclear test. I'm trying to remember the name. Operation Plum Bob. So basically we blew up a dirty bomb.
Oh yeah, this is in the book as well.
Yeah. So yeah, we're jumping all over the place here, folks. My coffee is beginning to kick in, and I'm trying to get it back on the rails here. Uh, so yeah, Operation Plum Bob was a test where they basically just wanted to see what could happen if they just, I guess, we didn't know about fallout. So we needed to figure some stuff out, and it created
I mean,
an incredible amount of just radiation.
and they literally brought in, this is the one you see where they've got like whole towns built out in the desert, and they brought in livestock, they brought in cattle, they brought in other animals, monkeys, I mean, cars. They wanted to see what would happen to fall out on cars, what would happen to fall out on just normal construction, concrete, wood. I mean, anything you could think of, any material. They wanted to see what's going to happen if we, set this bomb off.
Yeah. I remember a film that I saw that was explicitly this specific test. It was Plum Bob and another test that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I remember there was a propaganda film made for civil defense that came after this test, because they wanted to show the efficacy of having a clean house, the efficacy of having a clean yard, a presentable house, how a presentable house will keep you from causing a wildfire when a bomb goes off. Like, they were literally like shaming people into having like junk in their yard, because like when a nuke goes off, that shit'll catch on fire and then burn everybody else's houses down.
Yep.
So if you paint your house nice and shiny bright white with your white picket fence and your nice groomed yard, that white paint will reflect most of the heat pulse. Jesus, people. This is what we were thinking back then.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like this low-key suicidal, just not even suicidal, like our entire species was just ready to go at a moment's notice. Like, it was apocalyptic.
Yeah. How close were we to destroying ourselves? Like, during this time period with all the nuclear testing and everything else, how close were we from just accidentally nuking the atmosphere?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we also did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, we slapped ourselves in the nuts with a couple of these weapon tests. One of my favorite ones was, this is such a weird 60s, 70s. There was a hippie somewhere on the panel of this test. Starfish Prime. One of my favorite nuclear series tests. So the Starfish Prime experiments, or it may have just been the one shot. We blew up a nuke in space, folks. That's pretty cool. Except that when we did that, we discovered that, electromagnetic pulses are a thing, and we accidentally knocked knocked Hawaii off the grid.
Yeah. We discovered EMPs.
Yeah, I mean, it was 600 miles above Hawaii when it went off, but it knocked out basically all radio communications in the Pacific for a little bit. It's like, that's really bad.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
Yeah.
Or at least not over anywhere.
Yeah, that's why we started having the weapons treaties.
Yeah.
I think it was mainly because Russia was just like, holy shit, America, you need to stop.
Yeah, dude, like, they're taking we're like at a level 7 and you guys are cranking it to 11. Like, let's maybe tone it down a little.
Like, it was the rapidity of just and just the repeated testing, because it was over 1,000 tests. And yeah, the Soviets, they created the Tsar Bomb. Yeah, they were just like one and done. Like, look at this, we lit up the entire atmosphere. Like, they nuked the crap out of themselves. Like, what was supposed to be like a lower yield bomb ended up being a higher yield
Yeah.
But it wasn't as big as they are anticipating because it was supposed to be like 100 megaton test.
Yeah.
Yeah, no good.
Oh, dude. All right. Well, we are so beyond time at this point. It's been so much fun, but I've got to wrap it up.
All right, man.
Dude, we should pick another book and do this again because this has been a blast, man.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome, man. There's a lot of material to cover, folks, and it was a rambling one, but I really, really strongly suggest you check out this book. It's amazing.
And again, that was going to be Annie Jacobson's book. Here we go. Area 51, An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Base. So, man, thanks again for turning me on to it. It's literally changed the way I looked at Area 51 and UFOs in particular from that era, because I'm pretty sure almost all of them were just spy planes.
There's literally just spy planes. Yeah, spy planes and satellite tests. I mean, just a lot of it's the hidden history. Like, we'll eventually have it all declassified, but nope. We gotta wait.
We'll see if we get that before we pass on. You know,
maybe
talking with my grandkids about Area 51. They're like, Area 51, we know all about that.
Yeah, wasn't that when we were gonna clap alien cheeks, Grandpa?
Yeah, didn't some guy Naruto run? It's like
yeah.
So, but again, man, thank you so much, and we'll see about getting you back on and doing something else. So. All right, man.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. All right, guys. Again, that was Jacob Cruzy. So you made it to the end of today's episode. Question: did you have your ideas shifted as to what was behind the UFO craze and how vital Area 51 has been to the development of stealth technology and also all technology? I hope it did, and I hope you'll reach out and read Annie Jacobson's book for yourself. It's a fun read, and the audiobook version is actually read by the author herself. Thank you for listening to the show, and I want to remind you to check us out on all of our platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Instagram. Just search for Tales from the Dark Roast. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment and hit subscribe. It really helps me to grow the channel and get episodes out there. If you're on Google Podcasts or Spotify, leave a review so I know how to guide the show in future episodes. Also, leave a comment. Let me know. Do you think it's aliens? Aliens.
Maybe.
And then stay tuned for future Tales from the Dark Roast episodes, as I'm still working on big plans for the end of the year, and the evidence video I've been promising should be next week. So if you enjoyed the episodes with Drusilla Nix and Mark Van Dyke, you're not going to want to miss out seeing the photographic evidence of possible ghosts or even shadow people. So once again, thank you for listening. If you have a dark story you're willing to tell, then I have a pot of dark coffee I'm willing to share. I'm Mortimer James, and this has been Tales from the Dark Roast.